We bring in NHL Network insider Elliotte Friedman for a little roundtable action to talk all things trade deadline, and that's a great place to start, Elliotte. How much does this news alleviate the concerns or potential hesitation that some general managers in Canada may have been feeling ahead of the deadline?
Jackie, I think it's going to be a very big deal. I think for the teams that are probably most poised to add, which are the four teams that look like they're going to be the playoff teams, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, and Edmonton, I think it helps a great deal. You know, the Jets in particular went through the 14-day quarantine with Dubois, and he got injured right afterwards. They were concerned about that effect. I think they were really wondering, do we really want to go through this again? I think they'd be much more comfortable with 7 as opposed to 14. So, yes, I do think this is a big deal for them, although I think a lot of other Canadians are going to be extremely unhappy about it.
Oh, I can attest to that, Elliotte. I had tweeted a couple weeks ago about how, just what's the science on 14 days, to which half of Canada rose up and tweeted horrible things at me. I was really offended, Elliotte. But
I thought
okay.
we were polite.
It was not. There was nothing polite about it. I said something about you could be a truck driver, and it didn't go well. I've learned to stay out of that political stuff. But this is truly something that will be significantly helpful for all the teams, and for guys like us that are trapped on TV for 8 or 9 days, 8 hours on trade deadline day. This will be good news.
Yes, it is. I agree with you.
Oh, I don't know. I thought Jackie was going to the next topic.
So. No, that's it.
There's nothing to say. I totally agree. I think that, listen, it's 7 days is better than 14. What could I add?
No, just what was the science?
You know what? I bet you if it's 5 days, that'll even be better than 7.
Listen, as someone who's been isolating for weeks now at this point, I heard politics, I heard quarantine, I tuned out. But let's get back to trade deadline day, which is around the corner. And we'll just start by kind of picking a team and posing to you, Elliotte, what your expectations are around that team. I mean, the Washington Capitals looking like a force in their division once again this season. What type of a move or player could you see that team targeting?
Well, the one thing I've kind of wondered was, Brian McClellan has basically said Ilya Samsonov and how he plays is going to be a big factor in what they're going to do. So when Tim asked me to prepare for this segment, he said, try to think of some potential matches and ideas that you could do. And Vanacek, I think, has been really good for them. He's had an excellent season for them. Samsonov's numbers look quite good. So I just said, you know what? I want to stress before I throw this out, this is not anything the Capitals have kind of leaked to me or anything like that. This is purely my opinion. But if they do decide to go for a goaltender, I wonder if they would try to do something like Darcy Kemper from Arizona. I think Arizona is willing to do just about anything. So I was just sitting there saying, okay, if I could find a match and a need for a team, because I think Washington can win the Stanley Cup this year. I really do. And if they determine they've got to make a change in goal, this is a guy who's going to be around back and is scheduled to be back around the trade deadline. I wonder if that was something that they would kind of consider.
I don't think it's out of the question. I think you've got the right team. I don't think it's out of the question that Arizona could potentially, depending on how they play down the stretch, trade both of their number 1 and 2 goaltenders. And I'm not talking about Adin Hill. I'm obviously talking about Antti Raanta. I do think that the cost would be just a little bit more affordable for the Washington Capitals. But I agree with you, Elliotte. That would be their top priority. And I would not be surprised if they make a move of some type. Because as you've said, and I think you're 100% correct, Washington Capitals are having the type of season that clearly makes it look like they could win the Stanley Cup.
Elliotte, when you bring up the Darcy Kemper, it leads me to ask you about the Arizona Coyotes, just because, what's going on there? I mean, you trade away, if you're thinking about trading away Darcy Kemper, and we've heard this before, I think you're the one who talked about the idea that there's been some talk about moving Connor Garland. They have new general manager there. They've had a lot of different things happen in Arizona. Rick Tockett's at the end of his contract. I mean, what are you expecting the Arizona Coyotes might do? Because we're looking at the standings right now. I mean, I don't think they're making the playoffs this year. Are there going to be major changes there, do you think, around this group?
You know what I think it is, and first of all, I think they've competed really hard, and I think Tocchet is a guy who gets the best out of his players. I really do. He asks them to grind, and they have for him. I just think they look at their situation and say, we need more, and they don't have a lot of draft picks. They don't have a ton of prospects. They got a lot of good. Like Chychrun is becoming one of the best defensemen in the league. But I think they just need more. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to look and say, all right, how can we add to our base? And a guy like Garland can do that. And he's doing a big raise. He goes arbitration, UFA. And I think what the Coyotes are looking at is saying, what makes more sense for us? To do that or to flip him for the kinds of picks and prospects that we need? You know, Kemper and Ronta, you mentioned. What makes more sense, keeping them or going for the kinds of picks and prospects they need? And I think that's the way Arizona looks at it right now. Is it better to restock or is it better to keep going in this direction? And depending on the offers they get, that'll answer it for them.
Yeah, I
How
really
about the Colorado Avalanche? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Lawton.
No, go ahead. I just think that you're exactly right on this as well, Elliotte, that ultimately you got to figure out where you're going, and you can't always do it so publicly. The Arizona Coyotes have had a good year. They do compete every night, but their future is clearly down the road, as in probably 2 or 3 years when they can really rise up and have a chance to be in the playoffs and then win rounds in the playoffs and then compete for the cup.
Well, I think the time is nigh for the Colorado Avalanche to look more and more like the team we all thought they would be as they get more and more healthy here, looking like a dominant force. So, Elliotte, what type of a player could you see them adding at the deadline to get ready for what they hope to be a deep postseason run?
Well, I think Colorado could do a couple of things. Number one, I think they're looking for some depth forwards, like some guys who can grind a little bit, play with a little bit of an edge. I still think they could look for another goalie, but a guy who I think would look fantastic in a Colorado uniform, if he's available, is David Savard from Columbus. And, you know, they traded Eric Cole or Ian Cole this year because they just had a numbers and cap issue. Erik Johnson, you know, I hope he comes back healthy. I just don't know what the situation is there. So I could see Colorado saying we need another big body on the blue line, a grinder body on the blue line, a really good, solid defenseman, and David Savard is that guy. So if I was Colorado, that's the kind of guy I would be targeting.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado, they're like the Tampa Bay Lightning right now in terms of being an embarrassment of riches in terms of what they have at their disposal. They could go a number of different ways. David Savard would look beautiful for them. There's no doubt about that. For me, I would be a little bit of goaltending depth. That's where I would really focus, though. Grubauer's been tremendous, but as we saw last year, it can go away really quickly with a string of injuries. I understand they made a trade recently with Buffalo, but I'm thinking a little bit more than that to really shore up that position.
Yeah. I don't get Jonas Johnson. I mean, maybe they see something that we don't see, and he's a younger guy, so maybe he can get things turned around behind, let's face it, a really good team in Colorado. But if I'm the Avalanche and I think that this is a year I can win, and believe me, by watching them play, I think they can win. They've got to do more than just Johnson, right, Elliotte? They've got to be thinking about one more piece just in case, you know, we have another injury at the goaltender position because they've had this problem before.
I would say that they're looking at that. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I'm wondering about, they know Jonathan Bernier. Yeah. How quickly is he going to get healthy? That name makes some sense to me.
All right, Elliotte, we can't have you on without asking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tough week and a half for them of late in terms of games played, I should say, because they've had a lot of time off in terms of the calendar days. But what do you expect from the Toronto Maple Leafs? How active do you think that they'll be as we approach the deadline?
Well, I think they're going to be very active, Jackie. And one of the things, they've lost a couple players on waivers in the last couple of weeks to Vancouver, Jimmy Vesey and Travis Boyd. And I think part of that is because Wayne Simmons is back and healthy. And I think also part of that is to create cap room. And I think they're going to go big up front. I think Michael Granlund's a possibility. But Tim, when he asked me to put together this segment, said, give me your wish. If you were Toronto, what you would wish. So I don't think it's going to happen. But I always listen to what my producers tell me. I never fail to listen to the producer. And so if I was Toronto, I'd be wishing for Philip Forsberg. I just don't think that's going to happen.
That would be a tough one, in my opinion, just in turn. I know the Leafs have made very public statements. They're all in. We'll trade basically any of our draft picks, whatever we can that won't reduce our ability to win right now, which is something that you think Nashville would have a lot of interest in. I just think that the Nashville Predators, if they do, in fact, seriously consider trading Philip Forsberg, I think they could probably get stronger returns elsewhere.
Yeah, I'll tell you one. I was talking to someone in the business today who I really value their opinion, and a name they threw at me, and I don't think this guy's available, and he's not even a big name, but Miles Wood from the New Jersey Devils. He's big, he's strong, he's disruptive, he gets to the net, and I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've got plenty of high-end skill there. I think they just need more guys that move around your lineup, that can play in different situations, that can stir the pot a little bit. And so when that name got brought up, I was like, boy, that could be a good fit for them. The problem would be, I would think the Devils are not interested in moving him, but you never know.
It's a good name. Really good name.
All right, well, to bring this all full circle, you are right, Elliotte. We should always listen to our producer, especially when multiple people are on remote. I think we learned that much over the course of this segment. But we appreciate the time. I'm sure we'll be chatting with you more and more as the deadline approaches. Try to get your rest, hey?
All right, my pleasure, guys. And Brian, I look forward to more of your political commentary on Twitter.
I don't look forward to that.
And I look forward to seeing your next movie as the man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, there you go.